Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. This is the Weekly Spinner Rack, and I'm your host, Chris. Tell you what, can I give you a double salute? I want to. I'm going to try. Here's one. There's the other. That was hard. Ow. All right. My shoulder is still really bad. Really bad. I definitely recommend avoiding adhesive capsulitis if you are able to. I do get a steroid shot into the shoulder tomorrow morning, super early. So hopefully that alleviates some of the pain. We will see. In the meantime, just know that we are going to talk about some awesome comic book news this week. Tons of amazing stuff. Distribution changing, new comics being announced, new deals, all sorts of big name creators, AI, plagiarism accusations, got comic books and manga, all sorts of amazing news. Big publishers, small ones. Going to talk about some of the new comics that came out in the past week. And if I can, I might do a little bit of inking. I haven't done that in a while, but I've got some stuff that I would like to ink. Let's take a look here in chat. I know I didn't greet you all right at the beginning, but I love to give a few shout outs to some folks. So hello to Gantris and TJ Rip and Fran. We've got Phil and John. Hello, Victor. Hello, Matt. Yeah, get those likes up. Always grateful if you can hit the like button. Sounds cliche. We all have to say it, but it really is a real thing. Nice Heckboy shirt, right? Heckboy. Yeah. This was a shirt you got if you supported the Kickstarter documentary about Mike Mignola. I love this shirt. You quite right. Double salute. So hello to all sorts of wonderful people out there. Devil salute. Oh, all right. I missed it. Did the Celtics win? Give me some good news here, Chem Dog. I will say this though. I just finished all 31 volumes of Slam Dunk. What an impressive manga. Very impressive. I won't spoil how it ends, but let's just say it leaves you thinking. It does not necessarily end the way you expect it to. And it takes something like 5 volumes to tell like one game. It's just amazing. Yusuf, hello from Egypt. That's amazing. I hope I get to visit your country someday. That would be lovely. Let's see. Chris, your teeth in the thumbnail. Have you spoken to Ross from Friends? What's wrong with my teeth? I think I've got good teeth. You could say that. Wow, Mexico City. Lovely. Wow, we've got people from all over. But anyway, I strongly recommend Slam Dunk. I thought it was pretty impressive. Pretty amazing. Definitely a sports story that will stick with me for a while. So it was really good. Shohoku versus Sano is a top 10 manga arc. It was really incredible. Really incredible. Tell you what, let's bring up some news of the week. Look at that. So there's my teeth. Those are my real teeth. I don't know what the issue with them is, but thank you. Let's great thumbnail. Just nailed it there. How do I do this? There should be a button. Rotate, fit to width, zoom. Can I just do this? I've never tried it this way. Let me just see what happens. Oh, no. Okay. I got to scroll. No, I don't want any of this crap. Let's start with this. This one definitely surprised me this week, although maybe it shouldn't. We have been seeing a lot of changes in distribution ever since the pandemic. For a long time, Diamond was the only legitimate game in town for every comic book publisher for distributing from the printer to the comic book stores, the direct market. But during the pandemic, DC switched things up a bit, and they went exclusive with Lunar. Marvel went in turn exclusive with Penguin Random House. And we've been seeing a bunch of publishers choose all sorts of different distributors. Diamond's biggest remaining client was definitely Image. Not so anymore. They have gone over to Lunar, just like DC. That happened on Wednesday. On Wednesday, Image Comics announced that in September, they will now be distributed by Lunar. So coming up in a couple months. There was a mix of reactions online. I would say that I think it seemed to me, but it's not scientific at all, that most people were okay with it. But there were definitely some stores that had some issues with this. For instance, Lunar does distribute a day earlier. That means that now, like it used to be just DC was coming on Tuesday, everything else Wednesday. It's always been Wednesday. Wednesday is New Comic Book Day. Well, now we really do have 2 days. So that's a pretty big change. And some appreciate that, like Lunar, according to these comments and stuff that I was reading, they appreciate that Lunar's shipping seems to be less and that there are less damages. Not that that is 100% universal. I'm just talking about a lot of discussion. I have this link here for a Facebook post. And since this is a video, you could always sort of screenshot it or come back. This post has a lot of comic book retailers and eventually people like Eric Larson from Image chiming in to talk about their thoughts. It's a pretty interesting discussion. Jim, lovely to have you here as always, buddy. I'm excited that Image is leaving Diamond. Time for a change. Time for something new. I, in general, am for it as well. I think that competition is ultimately a good thing. I think it's a good thing for us as the readers. I think it's a good thing for the publishers. Now, I will say it might put a bit more burden on the comic book stores when you think about it. There are logistics involved with this. They used to basically have a dedicated day when employees would be receiving packages, sorting it for the store shelves the next day. And now that's been turned into 2 separate days. That's a big deal. That might mean more hours for a comic book store. It certainly could mean a little bit more effort to go through the catalog. Diamond always published a physical catalog, previews. Image does it digitally, which is not a bad thing to be modern like that. But of course, we are talking about a physical medium, so there's a little bit of irony there. There's just a lot to think about. There's a lot to think about. I'm very curious to see how this shakes out, but it's definitely a big move, in my opinion, a big move. And I didn't see it coming, to be honest. I love Scott Pilgrim. Fantastic comic. There's a few other things by Brian. I'm so bad at names. You guys all know this. Who did Scott Pilgrim? I'm forgetting his last name all of a sudden. But Goodbye Chunky Rice is also a really, really good book. Oh, wait a minute. Is that by the same creator? I can't remember now. I'm all confused. Brian Lee O'Malley. Did Brian Lee O'Malley do Goodbye Chunky Rice, or was that by Craig Thompson? And I'm making a weird conflation of those two artists who aren't that similar. I think I've confused myself. You don't think it'll be that much more labor? I don't know. I was going off that, hearing 1 or 2 comic book stores saying that they thought that it would. Craig Thompson did Goodbye Chunky Rice. What am I thinking of that Brian Lee O'Malley did right before Scott Pilgrim? All of a sudden, I haven't thought about it in a long time. Anyway. But yeah, I think that that's a very fun comic. I'm very curious to see this upcoming animated version of Scott Pilgrim with the same voice actors as played the live action version. Lost at Sea? Maybe I'm thinking of that, like Lost at Sea and Goodbye Chunky Rice. They both have like covers with like water, and I guess I've conflated that somehow. That's so weird. I like Seconds as well. Seconds is a pretty good story. I haven't read Snot Girl. Oh, Joshua, do you work at a comic store? I'm sorry, I didn't know that. Let's see. I prefer Lunar because they offer at least as much better margin and the shipping is less. That's what I've definitely heard. I handle comics inventory for a local comic shop. Between Penguin, Diamond, Simon, and Lunar, there were a number of different shipments that required input already. So logistically, it's okay. All right. All right. Thanks for the input. Super helpful. I know that this is pretty deep in the weeds, behind the scenes stuff as compared to talking about creative content, but it is stuff that will affect us in some unforeseen ways in the future. So let's keep going and see what else we've got. This one was another little surprise. Last week, I had the news that Marvel had announced that they were doing a ROM omnibus. They had secured a deal with Hasbro. They had never reprinted ROM because it was a licensed thing, even though he took place in the Marvel Universe among other superheroes. They've never been able to reprint those. Well, they got the rights, and they're doing a ROM omnibus. And then just a few days after that, earlier this week, Marvel announced they also will be reprinting Micronauts. Now, these were two licensed comics. Hasbro owns both. Bill Mantlo wrote both of these series. Arguably these days best known for co-creating Rocket Raccoon or possibly his Hulk run. But I think a lot of people in the 70s and 80s really, mostly the 80s, just to be clear, really did love ROM and Micronauts. It moved at a fast pace, pure adventure. You know, it was a lot of fun, both of them. Both were really a lot of fun. So, yeah, there's going to be a Micronauts omnibus coming out in 2024, collecting at first the first 29 issues, the first 2 annuals, and some material from a special edition comic. So, this is the question. People are now speculating, okay, Marvel obviously worked something out with Hasbro, and they're like coming out with these reprints. So far, no notice about any news stories, by the way. But a lot of people are starting to speculate, oh, does this mean that maybe Marvel got the rights to Hasbro's Transformers and G.I. Joe books? Because that still has not been announced who got them. Personally, I'm pretty sure that it is not Marvel, but I definitely don't know anything for a 100% fact. This was a little before my time, so I never had any of the Micronauts toys. I have seen them at conventions. They kind of look fun. There's some comments. Let's see. There are a lot of crossovers. Not like crossovers like you have them today. There's lots of guest stars, you know, like Spider-Man and Luke Cage and people like that show up in ROM and Micronauts all the time. And yes, Rick Jones. Best thing I agree about Micronauts is Michael Golden artwork. Very underrated, amazing creator. Sometimes I feel like I use the word creator too much, and I should attribute the word artist to these people. I'm allowed to call them an artist. Michael Golden's work on Micronauts is really, really, I think, influential for the early image artists, in my opinion. There are some G.I. Joe and Transformers trade paperbacks from IDW when they had the rights. They lost the rights at the end of December of the previous year. So it still has not been announced who is publishing the new stuff. Wait, what was this? I remember having a Biotron as a kid and even have a picture of me with it. That's cool. They look like fun toys. I definitely did not have any. Let's see. Because of the omnibus, the pieces are going to shoot up. I would think that they would actually make the prices of individual issues go down because it's easier to read the whole story like that. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. I think a lot of people, if you've been exposed to Michael Golden artwork, you know that it's a pretty special thing. He's really, really cool. I saw this one just yesterday, and the names involved were like, wow. So a lot of us probably remember that Marvel put out a book. Stan Lee and John Buscema made it, How to Draw the Marvel Way. which is still a pretty good book to learn a few things about comic book creating. It's pretty cool. Uh, this is sort of like the modern day version of this. I don't know if you know the website Proco, but it was started by an artist, and there's all sorts of online classes and seminars for artists. Well, they've officially partnered with Marvel to create a whole curriculum for how to draw for comics. And they have some pretty amazing people, I have to say. Now, it is kind of, I wouldn't say expensive compared to college, but it's expensive in terms of like, hey, do you want to take a class out of nowhere? You're going to pay something. The full curriculum, which they call Marvel's The Art of Storytelling, is $249, which is not nothing. Compared to taking a college course, it's certainly very affordable in my opinion. And I think that there are ways like it right now because it's so new. I think that if you sign up early, there is a discount. Look at some of these people that they got: Mark Morales to teach inking, Aletha Martinez for poses, acting, and performance, Mike Hawthorne for basics of cinematography and perspective, Matt Wilson for coloring for comics. That's pretty impressive. Daniel Warren Johnson, environments. Yes, please. That one alone makes me like a little tempted. I'd be very curious to see what he does. Jim Zub, love Jim. Storytelling and story structure. Jim is a teacher and teaches cartooning and stuff like that at college. So I'm sure that he's got a really solid seminar. We've got, I don't know, Eric Gist, I'm going to guess, for comic covers. Ryan Benjamin for penciling. Cool. Sanford Green, character design, team design, action, and Aaron Conley for page and panel composition. The cool thing about this is you're getting to get taught with actual like Marvel. They're allowed to use and draw Marvel characters. Marvel's officially signed off on that. And yeah, this was started by, as Tit Goblin is saying there, Stan Propenko. Prokopenko. As soon as I said that, I knew it didn't sound right. So yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about it. A workshop for a weekend can run $500 to $1,500. Exactly. So $249 is not bad at all. I'm not trying to say that it's expensive. I'm just saying, does the average person just have an extra $250 hanging around? Maybe not. Maybe. But I think that those are some really great artists, and there's probably a good amount to learn there. Quintuple salutes from Arsnoff. If I did that, it would involve my feet, and I would also be banned from YouTube if I did the fifth one. But I thought I'd at least share it. Maybe some of you out there would be interested in taking that class. Here was another sort of big move behind the scenes. Bryce Gold is the gentleman whose profile picture you see there. And he was the Comixology head of content. Pretty big position. Just last Monday, while I was doing this show, I guess, there was an announcement that he had stepped down from Comixology. No surprise there. It's clearly going away. But the following day, this was a surprise. It turned out he is going to be the new head of comics at Kickstarter. He had a what do you call it? An announcement, a press release, and he mentioned some of the comics that he appreciated seeing on Kickstarter recently. They were on the indie side, but I appreciate that. They definitely looked quality. So he's going to manage and curate the comics category of Kickstarter, recruiting artists, approving projects, cultivating talent, answering customer questions. Comixology is in the process of going away, but is not technically completely gone. I also love to do a power bomb, but everything he does is really, really good. I've got a rival in the shirt department. Yeah, last week I was wearing my wild, what do you call it? My print, my tiger print shirt. Hey, look at this! Wow, John, thank you so much. Thank you for the super chat. Today was comic book store day, a 20-mile trek to my favorite store and a race to get back before the broadcast. Thank you. Let me say that I love this community and let me contribute to the new PC fund. Thank you. I don't know exactly when I'm going to get time to get out and get my new computer for this whole like editing and doing like a live stream. It is a priority for me. But on top of making my show, Comic Tropes, I mean, doing my part-time job, and right now, all these like doctor's appointments. And then I've also got all sorts of stuff at home. I've got a koi pond, and all the people I keep trying to get a quote to clean it, it should really get a deep cleaning once a season at least. They all keep flaking on me. Plus, part of my fence fell down, so I've got to get that replaced. And I'll be honest, kind of overwhelmed. I'm kind of overwhelmed. But I'm trying. Yeah, happy Memorial Day. Thanks for reminding me, Ryan. Happy Memorial Day to those who gave their all for us. Pretty nice. I've got a bunch more news, so I'm going to keep moving. That's what you like, right? Fast pace. This gentleman is Mike Carlin. He's worked for DC for a long time, both in comics and animation. 37 years to be specific. 37 years is not nothing. The thing I knew him best for, I have to admit, was, reading comics in the 90s. He was the editor of the Superman titles. So he oversaw stuff like Death of Superman. He also implemented something I always liked at the time. There were 4 Superman titles. One would come out each week. And even though they had different creative teams, the story would sort of continue from each book. So they put a triangle on each cover with like a number so that you wouldn't necessarily lose track of a story arc. It was kind of a nice move. But he has stepped down. He is retired. That said, lots of beautiful things are being said about the guy. And I was like, that name, though, there's like something in the back of my head that like there was something about him that got swept under the rug. And a little bit of Google searching reminded me that, yeah, back in 2005, editor Valerie Dorazio had accused Mike of sexual harassment, and she had the receipts. She went into quite a lot of detail in 2006 with that. She, gave up a bunch of like money that she could have had coming to her from DC, so that in order to not sign a non-disclosure agreement. So, nobody's perfect. That's for sure. I don't know the ins and outs of what happened there because those posts have been taken down. All I know is that this is something that he was accused of. And I think we have to take that stuff pretty seriously in this industry. How's the shoulder? My shoulder pain is terrible, to be honest. Just terrible. This shoulder is just... I'm in so much pain all the time, including absolutely right now. My sleep is terrible. I sleep for maybe 2 hours at a time and then wake up for an hour or 2 at a time because I can't find a comfortable position. It's just an agony. We'll see what I can do. I'm eating healthy. That's like the one thing that can like over time help. It's called adhesive capsulitis, and it's the kind of thing that unfortunately can take about 2 years to go away. There's not a cure for it. So thanks for asking. Happy to talk about it. I am in a lot of pain. I don't know how many of you know the Oshinoko manga. I haven't been reading it, but I see it in the news all the time. It's relatively new. It's only been out for a couple years, but it's very popular. It's sold like over 1 million copies already. If you don't know what the sort of gist of it is, it's a manga about a pop star or like an idol whose doctor is killed by one of her deranged fans. Okay. Her gynecologist, who actually like is in the process of like delivering mystery twins. She mysteriously has gotten pregnant and she gives birth to twins. And the doctor actually is reincarnated as one of these twins, as her son, with memories of his past life. And he's trying to figure out who the killer is and stuff like that. Anyway, it's come under a little bit of controversy this week. And that's because this guy is the boy. He goes by Aqua. And he dates an actress. This actress goes on a reality show, and it doesn't go well. She gets a lot of cyberbullying from, like, the people watching the TV show, and she attempts to unalive herself. I'm using careful wording here so that YouTube does not necessarily demonetize me. Well, the accusation is that what happens to, I forget her name. It's something like Kanake or something. But anyway, to the girlfriend, it happened to a pro wrestler, and it happened about the same time that the manga was coming out. Hana Kimura. She was only 22 years old, and she was a pro wrestler, second generation. Her mother was also a pro wrestler in Japan. She went on a reality show, kind of like a Big Brother type of a show, and it didn't go well. And she got a lot of hate mail and cyberbullying, and she unfortunately did follow through and unalived herself. It's very sad, very sad. So the question is, was the manga trying to adapt that, or was it a coincidence? Because it all happened around the same time in spring of 2020. To continue, and I'll just acknowledge, like, thank you, Sam. I sincerely appreciate the support. Thank you. Well, her mother, Kyo, did I have it on the previous screen? Like Kyo, I didn't type it in. Darn it. I think her mother's name was Kyoko. Anyway, she was also a pro wrestler, and this is the thing she said this week. And the reason it's coming out now instead of like 2 years ago or so is because there's now an anime adaptation. And episode 6 of the anime adapts the manga, and I think that more people see TV than read comics. So this is what the mother had to say. I don't mean to blame the author or any specific individual. I just wonder if there was no one who gave it the proper consideration before releasing it out into the world. That's what makes me sad, because it raises important issues. I would like to support a work like Oshinoko. However, I don't think it needs to be done in a way that makes people who have actually been victimized on social media suffer when they see it. Her argument is that it does not treat it seriously enough, and that it just sort of takes that it's adapting her daughter's death in an uncaring way. And that's a fair argument, because when this happened and Hana, took her life, the authorities tracked down some of the people that were harassing her. And I know one of them had to pay a fine of like $80. It just doesn't seem commensurate with the damage. So, yeah, just a crazy story that's going on right now. Wow. Phil, thank you. You have made today worthwhile for me. That's amazing. That's amazing. And yes, people, she was in Stardom. She wrestled in a few leagues. Larry, thank you. Let's see. My friend said this was an inappropriate request, so you can please use the Skeletor voice to say, Dan, you boob! He-Man was in comics too! Did I, is that what Skeletor sounded like? I think it is. I didn't watch He-Man as a kid. It is super sad. It brings up, an important question. I think that it's fair to adapt real life things and change enough to just, create a story. Does have to be respectful It does have to be respectful, especially when people's lives are involved. This is an incredibly sad story. So many pro wrestling promotions, had kind things to say, including even here in America. I know AEW said said that it was, a big loss. That was a good one. All right, thank you. Yeah. Bullying is an issue in Japan. You know what? I have never looked into that. I don't know anything about it. Ah, thank you so much. You don't have to do that, but thank you, Larry. I appreciate it. Joshua Hayes says the saddest things are the critics are mostly the folks on the sidelines not risking a thing. That's fair. That's fair. But it was in the news. I wanted to talk about it, but it's kind of a bummer, so I am going to move forward. I think I've shared everything I've got to say about it. It's just that these things have consequences, so I guess it is worth mentioning. People can get heated on opinions about comic books. It's never worth trying to attack someone. You can attack the opinion, I guess I could say, but don't attack the person. Don't go after like appearance or beliefs or things like that or their family. It's not right. There used to be a cool benefit that Diamond offered comic book stores, and that was they could get a free pass to San Diego Comic-Con through Diamond. Yeah. Not that many of us would know. Most of us don't work at a comic store. Unfortunately, this year that comes to an end. This year they have changed that. Now comic book stores, if they have an active Diamond account, can buy a 4-day pass, up to 2 of them. It will cost $330. That's no discount over what everybody else is paying. The only advantage would be that most of us would have to go on the San Diego site the day that those tickets become available, desperately hit refresh and try to get in the queue and buy it before it sells out. These stores have like a certain amount reserved that they're able to get. Yeah. I am not reading Unstoppable Doom Patrol. Is it something you'd recommend? Hello, Kevin. Did anyone here know anybody that worked at a store that got to take advantage of this? Because I heard this news and I was like, oh, that's too bad. And then I was like, you know what? I never even knew that this was a thing. I never had heard about it. Does the Skeletor work translate into the Paste Pot Pete trilogy? A trilogy of movies about Paste Pot Pete. Yeah, Paste Pot Pete. Ginter says San Diego Comic-Con has gone downhill, according to my friend who went the last couple of years. But I don't know if it's because of coming out of the pandemic or if it's companies just aren't into it anymore. I would say that like that criticism sounds like what most comic book conventions are dealing with these days. Ever since the pandemic, most publishers, or at least a lot of the big ones, don't feel the need to go to the comic conventions anymore. It puts their employees at potential health risk, and the amount of interest they generate out of it isn't always commensurate with, say, just issuing it as a press release. It does make it a little less interesting going to comic conventions when there aren't those publishers, but that is a real thing. But I wouldn't say that it's unique to San Diego. Yes. Be sure to stick around for the end credits. Definitely do for the upcoming Fantastic Four movie. You may or may not see me as Paste Pot Pete. You won't. I don't know how many of you watch movies by Neil Breen. If you haven't, I strongly recommend learning about Mr. Neil Breen. An interesting gentleman, to say the least. A guy who's made about 6 movies, funded them himself. He stars in them, usually as a savior who's really good at computers and who younger women like throw themselves at. He writes these stories. Uh, and you'd think even if he started pretty bad, which he does with the first movie, by like the sixth movie, he'd have learned a few things. And there's something delightfully pure about the fact that he is not. And I bring this up because I would love it if somehow Neil Breen was allowed to make a Fantastic Four movie. That would just be a dream come true. That would just be great. Yeah. Isn't that immoral? Neil Breen is a modern day prophet. I just love the idea of Neil Breen as like Reed Richards, and you still have like Margot Robbie as Sue Storm, just really into him. And he's like, I can't believe Galactus tried to destroy the Earth. I can't believe it. I can't believe Galactus tried to destroy the Earth. Please look him up. Please look him up. Yes. He's a real life genius. Exactly. He usually has 2 to 3 laptops on his desk in any of the movies he makes. So you know he's pretty darn smart. He's got a lot of computers. Why did you get hit by cosmic energy? Why did you have to take that flight? Why? Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm so glad so many of you do know about him. And if you don't, I'm really, really happy to have mentioned it. Look up Neil Breen. You know, here's the thing. The Room by Tommy Wiseau is funny. But Tommy quickly sort of pivoted and said like, oh, yes, it was always meant to be funny. Ha, ha, ha. And he's never made anything quite like that. Neil Breen, I hope nobody ever changes anything about him because he has made at least 6. I think he's finishing his 7th movie. And they're all just like that. He hasn't learned anything. It's so good. It's so good. Last week, I had some news that I thought was kind of cool. There's this cult movie out there. I'm sure a bunch of you have seen it, but probably not all of you because it is a little obscure. Fire and Ice. It's remembered because it had designs by Frank Frazetta, and it was an animated movie directed by Ralph Bakshi. It uses rotoscoping, so it's got sort of that, it's got a weird look to it, you know? It's got the look of if you've ever seen the animated Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies. Looks like that. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird, but it's unique. It's cool. And it's high fantasy stuff, which we don't get tons of. You know, there's not lots of movies like, you know, Conan and stuff like that. One thing that does get a little forgotten is the 2 guys that wrote it. Comic book writers, Roy Thomas and Jerry Conway. They wrote it. They came up with the actual story and characters. So there was some interesting news last week that like Dynamite was producing a prequel comic, and it would be written, as I've got like here in the notes, by Bill Willingham, writer of Fables. Great writer. I'm confident he can do a good job. But apparently there's been some sort of miscommunication going on here because Roy Thomas issued a quite lengthy response to all of this through his manager. And I just have one paragraph out of about like 5, but I think it sort of gets to the heart of what's relevant here. Roy Thomas said, of course, I feel Jerry and I should have been offered that writing assignment and no one else. The smaller companies are supposed to be so sensitive to the rights, legal and moral, of creators, aren't they? Even if the screenplay is technically owned by another property. Dynamite Comics knows this, but chose to act otherwise. And while I'm not going to raise a stink about it, I certainly do not give them my blessing or approval, whether they want it or not. Oh, that is a bit of a surprise, right? Well, Rich Johnston at Bleeding Cool went ahead and reached out to Nick Barucci, the president of Dynamite, who's publishing the comic, for a comment. And Nick's, I know Nick a little bit. I know him to be a very kind person that loves the comics community. You know, he does a show where he's like auctioning off art, sometimes his own art, and it's like usually to benefit people like George Perez's widow or a comic book store like Fat Jack's Comic Crypt that's in trouble. He seems to be he's helped me. Like when I was very sick with COVID, he gave some super chats here that were very generous. I know him to be a very kind guy. And so I was curious what Nick had to say about this. Let me also acknowledge this. It had barbarians, as was the style at the time. Is that a Grandpa Simpson quote? It sounds like a Grandpa Simpson quote. It had barbarians, as was the style at the time. I guess I can't do that voice. But here's Nick's reply to Jerry's whole. I'm sorry, not Jerry. It wasn't Jerry Conway. Roy Thomas issued this statement. Nick said, "We have great respect for Roy and slightly confused by this statement. Roy contacted Dynamite last year when we announced that we were working on Fire and Ice with the Frazetta and Bakshi families. And this current statement contradicts what he wrote then. He saw the announcement that we were planning on the series and reached out and stated that if an adaptation were to happen, that he would like to co-write it with Jerry if Jerry were up for it. He even offered the screenplay for other writers to review for prequels and sequels if we so wished. His current points are confusing to us. We have the utmost respect for Roy and Jerry and are open to working with them if it can be a relationship that works for everyone. I hope that this can get resolved amicably." It doesn't sound like, like it's not like Roy Thomas is like threatening some sort of weird legal action. It sounds like Nick would be, why would Nick not want to work with a guy like Roy Thomas or Jerry Conway? They're fantastic talents. And I'm sure that Dynamite Comics would love to work with them. So I think that there's been some sort of weird miscommunication here. But it was interesting to come across. I really hope it can all be worked out to everybody's satisfaction. Let's see. Probably wouldn't have been an issue if they had been able to talk in more detail about it. Possibly. I do feel like we're only hearing like about, I don't know, like 30% of whatever this behind the scenes story is. I was excited for this comic. I was like, and I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. Yeah, I think that something like that could easily be possible, like that Jerry wasn't up for it or something, but who knows? Who knows? Obviously, all parties involved just need to have a quick huddle, a conversation, and hopefully they can find something that makes everybody happy. Oh, okay. Thank you for getting me the exact percentage of what we understand. Thank you, Filthy Tree Man. I don't think you're that filthy, by the way. So it's a little unfortunate, basically, that that's happening. I hope everybody's happy. I am still interested in this as a comic. It's a weird movie, but I kind of like it because it's weird and different. So this was huge news last week, and it's continued to be big news. This book, Francis Rothbart, by Thomas Woodruff, drawn and composed by Thomas Woodruff. And as he describes it, this is a graphic opera, no mere comic book. This book got 4 Eisner nominations. Looks like sales-wise, it's moved less than 1,000 copies. It cost $75, so I'm not super surprised about it. But Thomas Woodruff was a long-time teacher and then administrator at the School of Visual Arts. As soon as this came out, the social media sphere just exploded with former students complaining that Thomas Woodruff always disrespected comics, that he did not consider it like a very good art form. So they felt like this was hypocritical. And there were also a lot of stories that a lot of different students were alleging that make him sound like not a great person. But there is another side. I don't know this guy at all. Gary Panter, he's a cool artist. He teaches at SVA and he defended Woodruff. On the other hand, Larry Hama, who I super respect, said that he had interviewed for a teaching job at SVA with Woodruff and that he was offered the job only to have it later withdrawn and he was told that it was because some other teacher there had tenure and wanted the job. But Larry said that he always was a little suspicious if that was like the true story, because there are also some stories that allege that like maybe he was like a little racist. Who knows? I'm just repeating what some of these stories are talking about. Also, there are some reviews of this comic. This is like it's drawn like some sort of South Asian boy who's feral, and it sort of plays into tropes that we haven't seen from writing since like the late 1800s. Publishers Weekly has this quote: vignettes, cinematically portrayed nightmares, eroticized child animal encounters, lightning strikes that alter France's body, unspool as he grows up with the help of foxes and magpies. Well, anyway, a lot of controversy just blew up as soon as these nominations came out, and he has actually voluntarily withdrawn his nominations. He says, or he said he's declining the nominations. Now, the official Eisner site has not removed those, so I don't know if you can just say I decline the nomination and it goes away. But for his part, I did qualify that. You're right, Jamilin, and I guess I did it because I haven't read the book, so I don't know. I wasn't one of his students. I've read the accusations, and there's more than one, which does lend it a lot of legitimacy and credibility in my book. I probably shouldn't have equivocated like that, but I also don't know the full story. So I guess that's why I sort of hemmed and hawed there. Yeah. It does. You're right. It does seem like this character is based on, say, Mowgli or something like that. I don't know. I'm glad this man isn't getting any accolades. Well, except he sort of has by just getting 4 nominations for this thing. It's definitely a shit show for the Eisners. I'll say that. Having a story about someone of a different race than yours showing desire for animals sounds pretty yikes. Yeah. And having your name listed with a Mr. title in front sounds pretentious. It strikes me as pretentious too. Strikes me. Yep. We talked about that last week, Rocket Reindeer. Yeah. What a story that was. One student said that Thomas Woodruff made a painting of Donald Trump with his own feces and then took that painting into the school's visual lab to photocopy it or scan it or something. Yeah, scan it there. And then he left it for like the students to clean up. That's a pretty horrible story. Pretty horrible. I'd be so upset to find out I could have been a comic student under Larry Hama and wasn't able to because of some BS like this guy. I love Larry. I grew up reading G.I. Joe and Wolverine and found a bunch of his other stuff like Bucky O'Hare. And I think that Larry in the last couple of years has started getting a little more respect because of people like my age that have grown up with his writing. But I don't think he got, and I know he doesn't feel he got the same amount of respect as his colleagues. He took G.I. Joe because everybody else passed on it. He was never invited to be a guest at comic conventions back in the day. But I think he's amazing. I think he's a really interesting guy. I don't know, and I don't really want to know, I don't think. That's awesome. Larry Hama is coming to a local comic convention to me in June, and I'm trying to decide what I want to have him sign. I'm leaning towards also having him sign my copy of G.I. Joe #1. I mean, I've also got #21, the silent issue. I've got some of his work that was he was hired to do some stories for Marvel that were never published, but it was published in a French anthology magazine. I have that. I don't know, but I don't want to like come up with tons of stuff. So yeah. Well, oh, isn't that disgusting? Must have smelled, I don't know. Yeah. Anything I say is going to get me demonetized. That's not the kind of show I guess I do. This sounds fun if you're into cosplay. Or if you're into the X-Men. This sounds fun. You have to be into that stuff. But Marvel and the official Disney fan club, D23, have announced a real-life Hellfire Gala at the San Diego Comic-Con this year. Now, in the comics, for the last few years, annually, the X-Men put on a big gala, kind of like the Met Gala, where superheroes and celebrities come to their mutant nation of Krakoa and they dress up in different costumes. It's a big party. I think it's kind of a cool idea, to be honest. Anyway, they're going to have, as much as you can, a real one. Saturday, July 22nd in the evening at the Park nightclub. Tickets are $65 to attend. Okay. And yeah, they say cosplay is encouraged. They're going to have the Green Lagoon Bar and karaoke. They're going to have the Hellfire Ballroom with probably like some sort of a contest for the costumes. And Layer X with a history of X-Men. Could be fun if you are into cosplay of any kind. Although, on the other hand, if I'm going to be a little cynical, they are monetizing something that a lot of us enjoy about comic conventions. It's sort of like, yeah, you have to pay to get into a comic convention, but you don't have to pay to see all the amazing cosplay. It's one of the most fun parts of comic book conventions. And this is sort of monetizing that. So, little weird. Nice. You're going as dupe? That, I guess if you got like a huge trash bag, you could just sort of paint it green and hop in it. That would be dupe. Well, you have to pay to get in, so I don't know. Sounded fun to me. So over here on the right, this is a facsimile edition of Incredible Hulk number 181. And these stars that I have added indicate that this is the foil cover variant. That's my high-tech skills indicating that this is shiny, okay? And that's because we're talking about how Marvel has seemingly eliminated any retailer discounts for buying their foil covers. Now, however you feel about variant covers and stuff, it's an important part of the industry, especially for comic book stores. But Marvel this week notified comic stores that, quote, Marvel's new foil variant cover program will bear different, shorter discounts than normal due to the significantly higher manufacturing costs for foil covers. Let me break that down in simple terms. It costs more to make foil covers. Got it. They don't want to increase the price for the customer, so the store has to eat that difference. Ouch. So specifically, stores are being asked to buy these at the same price that they're retailing for. Zero discount on some of these. Zero discount. What? That's a lot. For what it's worth, on some of these variants, Diamond is saying that they'll have a 50-cent discount, but on the Penguin Random House site, it's still listing it as full cover price, and they're the main source for this stuff, so I don't know. Doesn't it make 0 sense for local comic shops to sell foil covers at that point? It's like no reason to carry if you make next to no money. Not next to, no money. Of course, you can always mark something up, right? I mean, variants, I guess it wouldn't be too surprising to, see a comic store put that in a bag and board and charge extra. But, yeah, like, it seems like it's eliminating any interest in that. Maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the point. Does Marvel just not want to do foil covers? I don't know. They are expensive to make. They're expensive to make. Look, I just had a campaign for my Vampirella cover. Thank you again to all of you that supported it. That means a lot to me. There was an option there for a foil cover, and it wasn't cheap because we're printing those onesies and twosies. We're not even printing like Marvel still prints probably a few hundred, if not like a couple thousand. But so like they were super expensive. But some people like them. I think they look amazing. They look great, but they are expensive. Encouraging them to flip them for more money. Maybe. A lot of comic shops operate at razor thin margins. I just straight up not order them. I would imagine most. Don't sell them, Marvel will get the message. But that might be the message Marvel literally is trying to send, right? I mean, Marvel has to know what this is. Marvel should be eating the extra costs. If they want to move them, I guess. Yeah, you haven't seen them because there's not lots of them, but you know, there's generally a couple comics every month that have a foil cover option. And probably stores are only ordering those if they specialize in variant covers. There are some stores that really specialize in that stuff, or somebody specifically asks them to order that book for them, so it's already like reserved. You're probably not seeing much of these on the shelves no matter what. Well, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. As a long-term patron of comic book shops, if I order some variant and they try to sell over suggested retail price, that's an automatic no thanks, even if it's all Marvel's fault. Yeah, well, that's fair. Yeah, you see them at cons because probably stores order a couple of them here and there and hold on to them for like selling later instead of like that day. They take them to comic book stores. They can be incentives for ordering a certain amount. I think that's less common now. Now it's tends to be like, no, we want to know how many you want to get of that. They're a little different than the chromium covers that we used to see in the 90s. They're a little different. It's a process. The end result isn't radically different, but foil versus the sort of old-fashioned chromium is a little different for what it's worth. You could care less for gimmick covers. How much less would you care? So you do care some because you could care less. Am I getting that right? You did get the Doom Patrol foil cover. See, if it's a comic that you love or artists that you love, I can sort of understand why somebody might want that. Look, I'm not going to lie. In the 90s, yes, it was shallow as heck that there were glow-in-the-dark covers and pop-up covers and chromium covers and hologram covers. And you know what? I ate that shit up with a spoon. I loved it. I loved it. I still get tempted to do stuff like that. I don't know. Do I think Paste Pop Pete is going to be in Spider-Man 2? Oh, the game? Yeah, probably he's the main villain. The whole Venom thing is just Venom and Kraven are just a distraction. Paste Pop Pete is definitely the real villain, and I voice him. I think it was very well done. I think the Ghost Rider glow-in-the-dark cover, as far as variant covers go, was very well done. I think I bought the bullet hole cover back then. There were a couple that had bullet holes through them, I remember. I remember that. Well, I made an episode about that on Comic Tropes, about variant and gimmick covers. It was interesting to look into. I'm not going to talk right now about the spoiler of who dies in this coming week's Amazing Spider-Man number 26. Suffice it to say, that information is out there. It got leaked. What I'm going to talk about is the story behind how it got leaked, because it's very strange. Last week, we talked about that on the show. It was my last piece of news. I mentioned that there were spoilers. Basically, it got leaked who was going to die in issue 26 of Spider-Man, which Marvel had been teasing for a long time as a big event. And once it got out there in social media, Marvel went ahead and basically gave Entertainment Weekly the exclusive, and they just tried to get ahead of it, and they announced it officially. They just went ahead and showed high-res versions of it. So it is out there, but I'm still going to try to be respectful if you don't want to be spoiled. I'm going to just talk about the news of how this sort of happened. So last Thursday, Bleeding Cool said they were like trying to see, where did this spoiler first appear? And they found out that it appeared on a YouTube channel called Comic Kingdoms. And this is no like disrespect at them or anything, but it's a fairly low subscribed channel. And the episode didn't have tons of views. So it's kind of like, and that's fine. That's fine. Everybody starts somewhere. This channel doesn't necessarily have that many subscribers or anything. It's growing and it's fun. But why of all places would a channel like that get access to that, right? And Bleeding Cool asked them how they got it, and they issued this quote. This is back on Thursday. They said, "It seems that a lot of the community is under the impression that the source came from the publisher, and that is accurate. I am allowed to say that much. The sentiments we expressed about blah, blah, blah being killed off like this are the sentiments of our source." But then a couple days later, Bleeding Cool followed up on that, and they said, like looking into it some more, that doesn't work. Because if it came from the publisher, the images were like low res and like clearly like photographed at an angle. Like Marvel wouldn't have leaked like low res images probably. Like if they had access to them, they would, like whoever did it probably wouldn't have leaked a low res version. Probably wouldn't have. And then like he said also, Marvel shouldn't have had their production copies in hand yet by the time this got out. So you got to go back further. And that means that, like, where did this leak come from? Did it come directly from somebody that worked at, say, the printer that would have had it sooner? Or FedEx, one of the companies shipping it to a comic book store? I don't know. When it comes out, it has basically two covers, which is a little weird. It's got this totally black one that, like, keeps the spoiler from you. And then when you open it up, it has a real cover that like reveals who dies. So that's a little weird, like to print a comic like that. But anyway, pretty strange. Yeah, I think that there is a chance that the supporting characters of Paul and the kids could be going away. The publisher's nephew, Ernie, leaked it during his summer job work experience. Maybe. If you're curious to hear my opinions on the character that dies and the ramifications and the whys and everything, I don't want to repeat that. Go to my episode from last week. It's towards the end. I talk about that. So I'm not going to reiterate that. Yeah, and this is after news that this is where it came from. 216 viewers, only 107 likes. Oh, that's this. I thought you were talking about the show that it came from. Yeah, that's okay. Thank you, though. Thank you. Yeah, I love it when you guys hit the like button. It means a lot. I also doubt that it's long-lasting, and that's part of what bugs me about it. Pretty strange, though. Pretty strange, and I would like to know where this leak came from. I would be very curious to find out. Here's some cool news from Ahoy Comics, who I think has made some really cool comics lately. I really like The Gimmick, which is a wrestling comic with superpowers, basically. And it's cooler than it sounds. It involves a murder mystery type thing. Anyway, Comic Book Resources had an exclusive that Grant Morrison is writing part of a 13-part prose story across Ahoy Comics titles, and that's meant to celebrate Ahoy Comics' 5th anniversary. Surprise, they've been around for 5 years. The first part is called The Partially Naked Came the Corpse, and that's going to show up in Project Cryptid #1 in September. And then there's going to be 12 other issues that continue that story. And those parts will be written by other writers like Alex Segura, Torrin Gronbeck, different people. So just kind of a neat little gimmick there, something fun. And this Project Cryptid book that's coming out sounds like a fun anthology. It deals with all sorts of, actual, what do you call them? Well, how do I define cryptids? Monsters, like Sasquatch and Chupacabra, things like that. Chupacabra. I feel like I missed something there. Yeah, everybody likes Grant Morrison's work, right? I don't know. Maybe that's how overstating it, but Grant Morrison's pretty incredible. I so want Chip Zdarsky to work there just for the cookie pun. Chip ahoy. There you go. There you go. Yeah, you could call it a round robin. Oh, nope. Sorry, I highlighted the wrong one, but thank you, Daleks. A round robin type story, also known as an exquisite corpse story. Sorry, Chris, that was just a bad joke. I just pictured some entitled twerp relative making bad choices on the job. Oh, I know what you meant about, like, yeah, the nephew for Marvel. I knew what you meant. What does Ahoy publish that we might know? I've reviewed the gimmick here on this show. Let's see what else. I'm just going to use Google. I know that there's one or two things that people should know. What else did they produce? All I'm seeing right now is Project Cryptid. That's what's coming up most, because that's what they're promoting. Second Coming. That's a pretty good one. That's like about a cloned Jesus. That one is well known. What else? The Gimmick, Guilt, Dragonfly Man, Hashtag Danger, Highball. Boy, there's something else that's pretty well known, but I'm having trouble remembering what it was. Sorry. I guess I'd argue that Second Coming might be their best known project, just because it was originally at a different publisher back in the day. Hey, Marvin, always nice to have you here. I've got a little bit of MCU news, although some of it's more rumors. But I'll start with the news. Thunderbolts was supposed to start filming in 3 weeks, but Deadline broke that Marvel has paused that movie. And they've also we already knew that they paused Blade. They were already filming the Wonder Man TV show. That has also gone on pause, and it's all because of the writers' strike. They I think that it's important to Marvel these days. I do believe this, that they are trying to increase the quality of their product. And I think that they are pausing these things rather than going forward with what they have now. They want to have access to writers if they need to do rewrites, punch ups, things like that, which is probably a smart idea. Probably a smart idea. There's also a rumor from Cosmic Circus, and they get some stuff right. They have the rumor that it will eventually be revealed, probably in Ironheart, that the person that bought Stark Tower, which we saw all the way back in Spider-Man Homecoming, would be Mephisto, operating, like as a businessman on Earth. But the speculation from a lot of fans is that Marvel may have actually been setting up a lot of threads throughout Phase 4 for the Damnation storyline. And that does make a lot of sense. Damnation was a four-part story by Donny Cates, where I'll have to get into some deep comic book lore really briefly. So there was Secret Empire, right? Captain America was like, a Hydra agent, blah, blah, blah. A bunch of Las Vegas got blown up. Well, Doctor Strange then did a spell to bring back Las Vegas, including all the people that died. And it was revealed by Mephisto that they had all gone to his hell, and he wanted to recapture them. And what ended up happening, like sort of short version, is Mephisto turned certain superheroes like the Jane Foster, Thor, and Captain Marvel and stuff into Ghost Rider-like beings. And Wong ends up putting together a version of the Midnight Suns that has like Blade and Elsa Bloodstone, Iron Fist, a couple other characters that got established during phase 4. And so, yeah, it sounds like it is possible that they could be setting up a Damnation story, which would be really fun. It would be really cool, actually. You get a couple of the more powerful good guys, and they're sort of turned into like Ghost Rider demons, and then a bunch of the sort of supernatural guys like Blade, and I would guess in the MCU maybe like Black Knight, characters like that, Elsa Bloodstone, Man Thing, might maybe even Werewolf by Night would be like sort of put together by Wong to take them down. More Mephisto speculation. Yes, more Mephisto speculation. Yes, primarily his job at Stark Tower will be divorces. I think Damnation was a fun storyline. I think it could work quite well in a movie, actually. I think it really could. But we'll see. Speaking of the writer's strike, Deadpool 3 is filming. That's according to the guy that plays Colossus, Stefan Kapicic. I'm guessing it, the pronunciation of his name. Collider reported this week this. This is from Collider. Due to the contract writers for the project have with the studio, Ryan Reynolds is not allowed to improvise any lines during the entire time production takes place while the strike isn't over, as they have to follow to the letter the script that was delivered before the conflict began. Reynolds will have to keep any joke he thinks of to himself, completely adhering to what's already on the page. At first, that struck me as like, oh no, because, Deadpool, a big part of his charm is Ryan Reynolds' delivery. And you know that he's like riffing on the lines and stuff like that. But I also am not overly worried about it. And here's why. I think that before this movie comes out, the writer's strike will be resolved. It is typical for big movies like this to have some time set aside for doing like reshoots and stuff like that. So if they really feel that they need to do some punch up on some of the lines and stuff, there probably would be time for that. Let's just hope that the script that they got is a quality one, because I think that that's what's going to be most important for Deadpool 3 to work. That's a lot. Yeah, I can see that people are a little nervous about this. Oh boy, good grief. This does not bode well. I was already skeptical when they got the Free Guy director to direct it. Can understand that. ADR is a thing. Yeah, ADR is a thing, but you can't just ADR stuff without like improving. Oh, I see what you're saying. It could be read as improving. But you could also say improving. So yeah, sorry. I guess that could be confusing, but it can be pronounced both ways. Anyway, yeah, they have to wait until the writer's strike is over to have permission to sort of mess with the script. Otherwise, they have to do what the producers accepted. So we'll see. Yeah, maybe afterwards they do a meta joke about the strike. That would be very in keeping. Yes, ADR would be easier for Deadpool, even kind of up to the last minute, because he's wearing a mask. So that's why I started to not worry as much. But it also means that like he might have to rein in some of his performance and, like really find a way to deliver the line in a way that works and feels natural and organic for him, as compared to sometimes in the moment you give a line reading and then you're like, that's good, but boy, it popped into my head a funnier way to say that. And boom, you can do that. Well, during the writer's strike, you can't do that. I haven't seen that yet. Is that good? The Wrexham show? I like, what's his name from Always Sunny, and I like Ryan Reynolds. It would be interesting to see them running a football club. It would be interesting. Yeah, just to be clear, he's also banned from getting any better. He's banned from improving, and he's banned from improving. Maybe I should have said improvising. I think I didn't have enough. No, it's not Charlie Day. It's The guy that plays Mac, the guy that like really came up with the idea for Always Sunny. Him and Ryan Reynolds went in together and bought Wrexham, a football club. You know, chances are actually probably pretty good that he could appear on that someday. Yeah, chances are pretty good. There is a web comic. Rob McElhaney. Thanks, everyone. I'm terrible at names. You all know that. Rob McElhaney. He's a funny guy. So there's a webtoon on Naver. Like, that's the biggest webtoon producer. South Korean webtoon called Night King. And it was accused of using AI to trace images from a popular anime called Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation. And here's like a Twitter post showing some of this. Like, you can tell that, like, if you look at like these two pictures side by side on top and the bottom, that they look very, very similar. And it's not just an accusation, because as soon as that accusation got made, yeah, the creators of Night King actually admitted that they had been using AI tools, and they re-uploaded their comic with revised artwork after the accusation came out. They said that it was inadvertent, that they did not mean to copy Mushoku Tensei. But I think that is let's take that at face value. Let's believe them that they were using a tool. You can use a tool. They say it was inadvertent. Maybe it was. Maybe it's not their fault that the AI had been trained to use that style. This does give an example, though, of like a potential problem with AI, in my opinion, is it can't do anything original technically. It can just remix what it knows. And sometimes that could mean basically plagiarizing. I wouldn't say, no, they didn't accidentally use AI. What they're saying is that they used AI, but to their knowledge, they hadn't told it to copy that specific thing, and that's what it did. I don't know. It's interesting that they basically owned up to it right away. A lot of people get defensive on stuff like that. But yeah, so they're using some sort of AI. It sounds like they do art, and then they have AI sort of go over it somehow to improve it. Well, I mean, according to the Night King people, they did not tell it to trace Mushoku Tensei, but the fans had plenty of examples where it looked very similar, and so it absolutely was tracing from that popular anime. So that's not great. That's not great. Right, it's just pattern matching. I think that there can be some legit uses for some parts of AI. I think if you were just going to use it as an idea generator for a layout or something, and then you started from scratch just with like those ideas in your head, fine. You're still creating something yourself. I think if you asked an AI to summarize something for you, and then hopefully you rewrite some of that yourself, that doesn't sound too bad either necessarily as a tool to speed things up. I think that there could be legit uses, but I think that we need to find a way to ethically train these models in ways that give people the ability to both opt in and opt out of having their work trained in the system. And I don't know how that works. I'm not a technical guy, but I think that's the most important issue, is finding a way to train these things ethically. I've used it to get rough art ideas. Then I commissioned pieces. I think that's what you said. AI is good for learning things, not so much for writing. I don't know. Even the layout could have been lifted from an artist's composition, though. Possibly. Again, like, it gets back to, I think that there should be ethical training. But if you were going to just brainstorm an idea, and then as long as you're not just like going into Photoshop and retouching that, but like, just looking at that idea and then you make it from scratch, you're still making it from scratch. You're allowed to do that. You are. Um, just saying that, and I don't know. You can't really patent a style, but it's not good to trace things, especially other artwork. And that's sort of what this AI did. You can look at those examples and just sort of see it right there. I mean, there are a few changes for like superfluous stuff like the hairstyle, but like, you know, the position of the eyes, the way they did the nose, the cheeks, it's the same. It's the same. I am a big Doctor Who fan, and I'm excited for an upcoming special that they're making because it's based on a comic that I actually have read and really like. I've got this great Doctor Who omnibus with Dave Gibbons art. It's so cool. One of the stories that Dave Gibbons drew was called Star Beast. And in the latest issue of Doctor Who magazine, the current showrunner, Russell T Davies, also the one that brought it back in 2005, he wrote this in the latest Doctor Who magazine. He said, "We can talk later in the year about the whys and wherefores of using that story." He's talking about the Star Beast. And how much we've changed in its adaptation from a classic old Marvel comic strip by Pat Mills and Dave Gibbons. In fact, you'll be able to hear from Pat and Dave themselves, both fully consulted professionally and on board with the production right from the start. So I thought that was cool. Writer Pat Mills, artist Dave Gibbons were involved in a Doctor Who episode. Uh, Doctor Who has adapted one of their novels once by Paul Cornell, but to my knowledge, they've never directly adapted one of their comic strips. This is a first. And the only thing that's a little weird is that there were two other people involved in Star Beast. John Wagner also wrote on it, and there was editor Des Skin. They're not mentioned in this Doctor Who magazine quote. But yeah, Star Beast is going to adapt a 1980 story that was originally published in Doctor Who Weekly. Marvel UK was producing a comic strip, and it was published in Doctor Who Weekly. Specifically, Star Beast is in Doctor Who Weekly issue 19. So if you want to try to go on eBay or whatnot or Mercari and find it, good luck. I would guess it's not going to go for less than $50 if you want the original. But yeah, it is out there and it looks cool. It looks like they're making a very loyal adaptation. Here's something called a Wrath Warrior drawn by Dave Gibbons. And this is just a screenshot of it. Super loyal. There's also a character called Beep the Meep. Anyway. Doctor Who's cool. If you're ever really confused, just jump on whenever there's a new Doctor. It's always a fresh starting point, and they don't get too bogged down in continuity as soon as a new Doctor starts. Tom Baker's awesome. Oh, yeah. Doctor's Wife by Neil Gaiman. That was a really good episode. That was really cool. Yeah. I thought this was cool. Seeing some comic book artists get credit. Hopefully there is credit for Wagner and Skin. Just because it wasn't mentioned in this Doctor Who magazine doesn't mean that they're not credited. I just thought it was a little weird, but yeah. I love Doctor Who, but that's me. DC has an upcoming sort of crossover. I won't quite call it an event, but a crossover that sounded a little interesting. They're calling it the Gotham War. It's going to pit a returning Batman against Catwoman. He wants to retake his city. Basically, if you've been reading Batman, he had this multiverse story, and I guess while he was away, Catwoman basically took control of protecting Gotham in her own unique way. So there's going to be a crossover for this. It's going to have bookending one-shots, 2 issues in Batman, 2 issues in Catwoman, and 2 issues of a Red Hood story that are sort of like also one-shots. Creators Chip Zdarsky, Tini Howard, Mike Hawthorne, Adriano Di Benedetto. Could be fun. That said, this is a fine outfit that Jorge Jimenez has given Catwoman, but for me, I've decided that my all-time favorite look is the one that Darwin Cook made. I love Darwin Cook's design. I love it. Yes, Gotham War. We've had like Joker Wars and Riddler Wars and Bane Wars and time for a Gotham War. Hey, I mean, it's cool that there's a romance with Catwoman, but she started out as a villain. I think that sometimes you got to use her as such. Thank you, Kevin. I think so too. There is a lot of multiverse stuff going on in both comics and the movies. A lot. And even stuff that isn't technically comic book adaptations. I mean, Everything Everywhere All at Once was a fantastic movie. Who knows? It might be my favorite of the year. But it's also a bunch of multiverse stuff. We do seem to love war, don't we? Our favorite, though, is Star Wars. We like Wars in the Star, which I will argue should be called Stars War, because it's one ongoing war that takes place across the stars. It's not a bunch of different wars that took place on one star. I mean, that'd be crazy. I guess that could happen. Darwin Cook was amazing. Really something special. Really something special. Whoa! Magic K. Deskin is a very nasty person. I think maybe good that RTD didn't reach out to him for advice. They should credit him, but not making him like a great person. I don't know much about Des Skin other than that he's a publisher. I've never heard that before. I guess I got to read up on him. Sorry, what? Film Trek watches your vids all the time. I think I know that website. Is that the guy that like re-edits a lot of angry video game nerd clips? If it's the one I'm thinking of, he re-edited my story when I'm talking about like the time when I was a superhero. I don't know how else to describe it, folks. That's what I was doing. And he makes it sound like he edited it so that I'm like telling a story about killing a man and laughing about it. I laughed. I thought it was hilarious. Film Trek I'm pretty sure that's the channel that did that. I thought that was hilarious. Oh, I didn't realize you were actually in here. I feel stupid. I'm sorry. I am thinking of your channel, right? Like, I thought that was really, really funny. That was some pretty clever editing to make it sound like I was just this sociopath. Yeah, it was hilarious. Instead, I just killed the guy. That's what it said. It sounds very convincing. I thought that was funny. It does look shiny. There's a fine line between representing something like leather and latex. Fine line. Randy, I'm glad you're here, buddy. Yeah, Spike, if you don't know what I'm talking about, there is an episode where I talk about how I patrolled Seattle at night with Phoenix Jones in a superhero suit for a year and, broke up fights and gave first aid and helped lost people. It was a weird time in my life. Folks, Randy Stone is here, and he's a good buddy of mine, so I like to plug him. Tomorrow, he has a Kickstarter going live where he's going to be offering issues 1 through 4 of his comic Bullet Adventures. It's pretty much an all-ages superhero story involving speedsters. It's really, really good. He's already put out a bunch of issues. He always puts his stuff out in a super timely manner, pays his artists, colorists, letterers. I take a look for Bullet Adventures on Kickstarter, or look for either Randy Stone or his imprint, his comics imprint, Altruist Comics. I'm just trying to give everything so that people know what to look for. I really do think that Randy makes some good comics and is a sincerely good person who does things the right way. He's not putting out like tens of thousands of these issues, but he's delivering it to people that want it, and people are happy, and he gets to keep putting out a little bit more with each Kickstarter, at least I hope. And yeah, I'm sort of proud of him and impressed. He's like, At some point, I do hope to do a crowd-funded comic that I make myself, and when I do, I'm gonna be reaching out to Randy because he's done, like, about 4 or 5 successful, Kickstarters, which is impressive. It's not easy. Julie Newmar had such a good Catwoman suit. Such a good Catwoman suit. And it wasn't really how she was drawn at the time. So, like, that was influential for the comics. Yeah, he might be Randy by reputation. He does have 2 sons. They don't come out of nowhere. So, yeah, he could be Randy by name, Randy by reputation. It was super dangerous. It was probably not smart. Yeah. It was a weird time in my life. I had moved to a new city. I didn't know anyone except one guy, and I thought that I was doing good. I mean, I wasn't doing bad, but it was weird. She created her suit? That I don't know about. That's really interesting. I was really surprised by this. So, Runaways was one of those Marvel shows when Marvel started making TV shows like Agents of Shield and, Cloak and Dagger and stuff that wasn't it was like technically the MCU, but it was always like one way, like the TV show would sort of lightly reference the movies. But I always heard that Runaways was actually pretty good, and I always wanted to see it, but I didn't have Hulu. Now it got added to Disney Plus not that long ago, but I haven't made a point to sit down and watch it, but I've always been curious to. It looks like I waited too long because without any notice, Disney Plus and Hulu have removed Runaways. This is the thing that I sort of fear about the era of streaming versus physical. The reason why I do sometimes still like to buy physical comics as compared to getting just digital. It's nice to have less stuff in the house. The ease of access is fantastic. What you get for a monthly subscription, I think, is generally fair. But I hate that you can lose stuff. Like, I sincerely meant to give this a try. I don't know if it's good or not. Maybe it's not good. But I always was curious. And I guess I waited too long. Unless I wanted to pay for it on Amazon, which I don't really want to do. Now, Disney did announce that they were removing portions of their library on Disney Plus. Sort of almost creating a virtual vault for this stuff. I guess we can hope that it comes back. I don't know. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Emma Peel's outfit in Avengers absolutely influenced things like, let's see, I think John Romita Sr. designed Black Widow's black catsuit. Kate Bishop in more modern days had like an outfit for her version of Hawkeye that was absolutely taken from one of the outfits on Avengers. It is super influential. Disney Plus doing the Zaslav maneuver. The Zaslav maneuver. What about Kill Bill? Kill Bill's good. I like everything by Tarantino. I know that they can't have like everything in the world on these services, but that's just a little frustrating. I'm like, why take it off? Like, I don't know. Maybe not enough people are watching it, and it like doesn't justify the expenses to house it. I don't know how that works. I don't know. I know exactly. I was like lightly interested in Runaways. I never prioritized it. Now they say I can't have it, and all of a sudden I'm like, well, damn. I mean, I really like that comic. I kind of want to see it now. I don't know. I've got one last piece of news, which cracked me up. And I've got a couple comics I want to review, but let's end with something I thought was hilarious. What you are seeing here is a censored page of the Attack on Titan manga. Now, Attack on Titan has been out for a while, but I guess, they're only just getting some of these issues over in Malaysia. These colossal titans have had something like bike shorts added to them, I guess, to protect their modesty. If you've ever watched the Attack on Titan anime show or read the manga, you'd know that these titans are monsters. They don't have genitals. It's just muscle tissue. They're just monsters. They're supposed to be scary. And I think that running around in little shorts makes them a lot less scary. So I thought this was absolutely hilarious to look at. Like, imagine just like these monsters sort of trampling over you, but they've got on these like spandex bike shorts. I'd just sort of be like, I mean, I guess I'm going to get crushed, but I'm still going to laugh at you, buddy. They don't have anything to hide. They have nothing to hide. Yeah, it's just the Barbie bulge. There's nothing there. And we will never know why they did it because they refused to give us streaming numbers. Yeah, that's frustrating. Talking about the Disney Plus thing. Let's see. They all get a pair of Hulk pants. Yeah, where do they get pants like this? You know, that there you go. Black Phoenix acting too. Malaysia is crazy with censorship. Apparently so. Monster no want chafe. Yes, Fin Fang Foom with his purple underpants. They're pretty big shorts, actually. Fine. Everything's in perspective, though. Malaysia is sensitive about this kind of stuff. They obviously are. I gotta look it up. I should have checked. I wonder what the primary religion is in Malaysia, and if that's the issue. I would have to guess that that's probably it, because that seems extreme to me. Unstable molecule pants. That's what you got. Apparently, giant monster outlet malls are a thriving economy. You guys are good. You're making all the jokes so that I don't have to. This is easy. Titan and tall section of J.C. Penney. Kill the Titan, live in their pants. I think Malaysia banned Power Rangers because they thought it encouraged morphine abuse. Oh yeah, the mighty morphine Power Rangers. Is it Muslim? I don't know for sure. A couple of people are saying that, so maybe. I didn't find any pictures of any of the sort of female Titans, so I don't know. More Muslims than any other country? Really? Malaysia. More than, like, I don't know, Indonesia or Saudi Arabia? Okay, maybe. Fin Fang Foom doing tricks with Tony Hawk in skater shorts. Anyway, I just wanted to end it with something pretty funny. No, I've never really talked about the Metal Men yet. Someday I might. Thank you. I would have thought Indonesia. That would have been my guess, but I don't know for a fact. I've never double checked. Because Indonesia has a high population. I know it's a primarily Muslim country. Not that any of this really matters. Just curious. Just curious about facts and stuff. Let me add this and change the view to this. I only picked up like 4 comics this week. Honestly, the thing I was reading the most, and I mentioned it at the top of the show, I was finishing up Slam Dunk. I read a lot of Slam Dunk in the last week because I was getting close to the end, and it moves at such a fast clip. I just had to finish it up. But The Excellent continues to be an incredible comic. Anything with Mike Allred art, I'm always going to enjoy on some level. And Zeitgeist, the leader of the X-Statix, is just a horrible, hateful villain. There isn't, honestly, this is one of Marvel's best villains these days. He's so cruel. Sorry, he doesn't run the X-Statix. He runs the The Excellent. Excuse me, The Excellent. Great villain in this. Interesting team dynamics. Great artwork. Constantly shifting, like who lives, who dies. Characters die all the time. They betray each other. It's really interesting. And this is all a commentary on social media type celebrity. So there's this new sort of enemy on the Excellent, a robot called Docs. And what can he do? He can go online and find whatever embarrassing or incriminating information there is on you and post it out there for all the world to see. Very scary, very dangerous. But anyway, yeah. And I just got to say, Zeitgeist treats his teammates so bad. He's so abusive. And I don't think we've really seen a villain this abusive in a while. But it's believable. It's plausible. It's pretty incredible. Couple characters live and die. I think that this is so fun. I'm going to get to Supermassive. Let me just acknowledge that I also had a great time reading the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Usagi Yojimbo crossover, issue 3 of Where When. Hey, it's by Stan Sakai. He's done Usagi and a bunch of Ninja Turtle stories. You know, he can do this stuff in his sleep, but his artwork hasn't slipped a bit. You know, he's been doing this for a long time. And while he's got cartoony expressions, there's a lot of detail to Usagi. And it's very consistent. It's very clean and clear. There's also a lot of evolution on the main characters. This isn't a side story that's just an adventure. This moves forward stuff for Usagi and his supporting cast. Although most of this issue is a great battle between ninjas and mole ninjas. Moles climbing beneath the ground and stuff. It's great. It's really, really cool. But yeah, something huge happens to the character Gen, who has been a supporting character from just about day one of Usagi Yojimbo. So that's pretty cool. I recommend this. If you haven't been picking up the monthly issues, at least pick up the trade paperback when it comes out. Plus, it's not like IDW is putting out a lot these days, so let's support them when they are putting out good stuff. Blue Book is so cool. If you've ever enjoyed things like Fire in the Sky, Communion, X-Files, this is a book that you'll like. It is about an allegedly true story of a couple, the Hills, that encountered a UFO and aliens. And this issue involves Betty Hill going under hypnosis and recalling what happened to her. She and her husband, Bernard, alleged that this actually happened. That's because if we take it at face value that they believe that this happened to them, this is very scary, very scary. The idea that something completely out of your control could happen to you. You know, you have no real control over it. And it's not like they get hurt or anything. It's just, but it's still an abduction. Right? It's involuntary. It's very creepy, very creepy. Very good artwork by Michael Avon Oeming. You know, his characters are cartoons, but they have distinct features so that you can tell them from one another. You can always tell the layout of things. That said, while he's really good at like layouts normally, when they're in the spaceship, everything seems very amorphous. The backgrounds are very shrouded in black, and that's because she's only half remembering these memories. So it's not precise. And I like some of the decisions in the storytelling here that make it not 100% clear exactly what happened. I do recommend it. It's kind of scary in its own way, even though it isn't like people being tortured and killed and stuff like that. It's very interesting. That's a fair question from Tit Goblin saying, how much is it? It is $4.99. It is $4.99. It is a two-color book, or one-color book. It's got blue and then black and white. A very thick cardstock and like gloss cover. And there's always a backup black and white story by some creators of something creepy. This one's about spontaneous combustion, also very X-Files-esque. But I do recommend it. It's been a really fun find. I'm glad I came across this and gave it a chance. And the last thing I'll talk about, I think is a good value. It's $5.99 for a pretty big one-shot. This is called Supermassive, and it's the second crossover in that sometimes it's called the Massive Verse. It's basically the Radiant Black universe. Here's what's cool about the Radiant Black comics. And the ones that take place in the world. They don't do crossover events going from like you have to read Radiant Radiant Pink 1, Rogue Sun 32, Dead Lucky 5. You don't, that never works like that. Every story takes place in its own title, even though it's a shared universe. When they do a crossover, they do it as a one shot like this. You can or you cannot elect to pick it up. This one has Radiant Black, Rogue Sun, Dead Lucky, in a medieval version of Inferno Girl Red. And then I'm just going to give this out to you because it doesn't affect the story, but it is a big deal. It's sort of news, okay? If you don't want to know, you don't want to know. But I show you on the last page. This is for fun. At the end of the story, the version of Inferno Girl Red meets medieval Spawn. What? This takes place in the same world as Spawn? That's new. I didn't know about any of that. It's written by all the creators that write their regular stories, and they got a special artist for this issue. What was that artist's name? It's got to be in here somewhere, right? It's got to be. I don't know if they've got they've got a title page. Shoot. Where did they put it? They didn't make it easy. Kyle, you didn't make it easy to figure out who drew this one. I know that it's here somewhere. I saw it. It lists all the people. You didn't make it easy to figure out, though. I'm not gonna give up. Okay, there it is. There it is. Right before the little twist. Illustrated by Danielle Di Niculo. I'm guessing at that. Sort of got a bit of a manga inspired art style. I liked it. I thought it worked quite well for these characters. It had a lot of energy. It was interesting to see these characters play off each other. We don't normally get to see stuff like that. I thought it was a really fun issue. You see this, a bunch of superheroes are teaming up to find the Holy Grail. Yes, literally find the Holy Grail. Crazy. And then I was going to draw a little. I don't know if I'm not going to probably be around here for too long, but my work asked me to create a piece of art for something that they're doing there. They decided to add this sort of like prize closet, essentially. And, we sell cars. So I decided to pencil in this quick thing of Dominic Toretto from Fast and Furious, or at least somebody that certainly looks like him, but for legal reasons could be somebody else. And he's at a pit stop. And I thought I'd do that for work. Now, they're not paying me or anything, so I was like, but it's work, and what can I say? You kind of want to show off sometimes when people hear that you can draw, so yeah. Family time is 100% right. Family time is right. So tell you what, I don't have a lot of time, obviously, because we're coming up on 2 hours, and you guys all have lives. Probably don't want to stay here forever, but what I'll do is I'll just try to ink the Dominic piece of this. And then that'll be a good cutoff point for the show, which has been the best show ever, right? It's been good having you guys here. Let's see.
Just a man who loves his family.
That kills my throat. I think you all have lives. I love that you guys have dedicated a little bit of your time to me today, though. That's very kind of you. We always have fun, don't we, folks? Don't we, folks? I hope I'm drawing this to actually look like Dom and not, say, The Rock. The Fast and Furious movies sure have a lot of strong bald guys, huh? Because you've also got Jason Statham in there. A lot of people don't like these movies. I get it. They're weird and dumb and stuff, but I do like them. I think that they're a blast. I just take them for what they are. Let's see. Reading the chat is a nice plus. Yeah, I love talking to you guys. I was shortlisted for a role. Yeah, you've got the name. Randy Stone? That definitely sounds like a name for a Fast and Furious movie. Bullshit. Every American is legally obligated to see at least 5 of the 11 movies. I would like to see that movie, yes. I would like to see Shin Kamen Rider. I have seen Shin Godzilla and Shin Ultraman. I like them both. So we shall see. We shall see. I would like to. Tomorrow morning, I have to get up tomorrow is going to be a crazy, hectic, annoying day for me. I've got in the morning, like real early, an appointment to get this steroid shot in my shoulder that might help alleviate some of the pain. I hope it does. And then I go straight to work. And then the second work is done, I have to drive to another doctor's appointment to basically rule out cancer for this other problem I'm dealing with. So tomorrow is just going to be miserable. Yeah, they call it a corticoid shot, Clay. I don't know. I've got tickets to see Kamen Rider. Cool, Jico Rijo. No, just to be clear, I don't know the bone ethos. I don't know that stuff. No. All right, that's good. I thought I saw a Fast and Furious movie, but it was just 2 guys drinking an energy drink in muscle cars outside my house. Okay. Yeah. I can see how that could be confusing. I don't draw enough. I love drawing. How many of you out there draw just for fun? Just curious. Cortisone can help. Okay, I hope so. I did do physical therapy, but now, like, I guess that was while my shoulder was freezing. Now it's in the frozen stage, and it just doesn't move very much. It's frustrating. I've been drawing a lot. Good. Whoops, I missed some stuff. I draw now too. I do me. I do digital art. I do a lot. I've been drawing my comic while listening to you. Great. That's awesome. Wow, a lot of people. A lot of people. I doodle. Doodle is fun. Doodling is fun.
Live my life a quarter mile at a time.
I talked about what I read for comics this week, but I didn't ask. And that's so rude of me. What have you guys read this week that you would recommend? Does anything stand out as an especially good highlight? Always curious because recommendations are how I find good stuff, you know? The computer quiet. All 8 Eyes is impressing me. Green Arrow. The new Wesley Snipes comic. DMZ. Rereading Neil Adams' Denny O'Neil Batman. Batman Dark Detective by Englehart and Rogers. That's a good run. Superman Secret Identity by Busick and Immonen. I love Stuart Immonen. Just love him. Walt Simonson Fantastic Four. Love it. Love it. The Steranko Masterworks. Yep. Let's see. Nightclub. Nightclub's decent. Thunderbolts with Winter Soldiers. Fun. Good. The Sound of Your Heart webtoon. Oh, all right. That's one I haven't heard of. I'll keep that in mind. Thank you, Fran. Thank you. I'm falling way behind. You guys are hitting with all sorts of stuff. Action Comics #1. I saw that you got that facsimile edition, EJ. I saw that. Hairball is a good creepy cat comic. Oh yeah, I'm reading Tokyo Revengers too. I'm caught up with what they've released here in America so far. That's awesome. You guys have lots of recommendations. Oh, Agents of Hate? Yeah, hell yeah. Next Wave, man. Next Wave is awesome. Starlight, okay. I bailed on Ambassadors. Toilet Bound Hanoku-kun. Okay. I know I didn't get everybody. Sorry. I've been enjoying Last Aviatrix. Oh, wait. I think that Buster might have sent that one to me. That sounds familiar. I think I read that. I think that was a comic that somebody sent to my PO box. You see Philadelphia. Lonely at the Center of the Earth. Yeah. Really interesting, isn't it? Like the storytelling in that is definitely unique. I was impressed with what Zoe Thorogood did with that one. Yeah. If you don't want to buy it, I know that you can get it through the library app Hoopla. But I do recommend Zoe Thorogood's It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth. Really, really does a lot with comics that you couldn't do with other storytelling mediums, which I always like to see. I don't like to see experimental for the sake of experimental. I like it to have story-based reasons, and I would argue that Zoe's absolutely does, for what it's worth. You wish Age of Hate could be a Disney series? Yeah. She cosplayed as one of her characters at Anime NYC last year. That's amazing. I love comics. I know you do, Randy. Will you stop bragging? Some of the rest of us like comics a little bit too, okay? I'm just kidding around. I hope you guys know that. Sometimes it's rare. It's a bad idea, but sometimes I joke around. What can I say? I'm what some people call a silly boy. Them so I've heard about, huh? I'll probably wrap in a sec. Another eight eyes. Right? Yeah, I just started drawing and this is too quiet. I realize this is why I don't do it that much anymore. Draw while I do the show is I get too quiet. I get distracted drawing. So I think I'll actually wrap it up. It's basically dinner time for my family. But I do still aim to get a better computer, folks. Don't know exactly when, but that will improve the stream once I can. You only hope that I play Paste Paw Pete as seriously as possible. Spider-Man. You think your webs are sticky? What a joke. You want to see sticky? I'll give you sticky. Because you ain't met Paste Pot Pete. But you're gonna, wall crawler. You're gonna. And things will get so sticky. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to have fun. But I'm going to take off, folks. Time with all of you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for hitting things like and subscribe. I'm hard at work on the next Comic Tropes episode. I am definitely working slower than usual with this bad shoulder. I am in so much pain. It is distracting. I can really only work for like, I don't know, maybe like an hour at a time before I just have to get up and move. So that's tough. But I am doing everything I can to try to get this one up either before or during this weekend. It's really important to me. So wish me luck, and I will see you next week. And until then, your marching orders are simply to keep reading comics. Take care, everyone. Bye.